I can remember the frustration of not being able to talk. There are certain places where a 3-year-old with no speech is put on a 2-year wait list. That's absolutely terrible. We've got to start working with these kids. You can't just let them vegetate in the corner on electronics. That is the worst thing you can do.
Think there's any stigmas that still need broken surrounding autism?
Such a huge spectrum. And then we've got our profound, severe cases that need 24/7 support. You know, I'm seeing too many parents today kind of overprotect their kid. Attacks started at puberty for me. When the hormones hit, that's when the panic attacks started. And I had to go on antidepressant medication.
What would you tell a parent whose child just received their diagnosis? Today, I have the incredible honor of sitting down with one of the world's most influential voices in the autism community. She's a best-selling author, speaker, inventor, and advocate who has changed the way the world understands autism. Named one of the Times Magazine's 100 most influential people, Dr. Grandin has spent decades educating others about neurodiversity, animal behavior, and the importance of recognizing the strengths of individuals who think differently. Through her books, documentaries, and groundbreaking work, she's inspired millions of families around the world and reminded all of us one simple truth: different, not less. Today, we're talking about her childhood, anxiety, communication, advocacy, and lessons that she hopes families will carry with them for generations to come. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Temple Grandin to Get UnPuzzled. Dr. Grandin, thank you so much for joining us today. So many of our listeners are parents and caregivers raising children with autism and other disabilities. And I think one of the greatest gifts that you can give them is sharing your story. When you think back to your childhood, what are your earliest memories?
Well, I can remember the frustration of not being able to talk. Very frustrating. And I remember a very frustrating time in kindergarten. I had just learned to talk, but I was slow. I was slow to respond. And we had a little assignment that had pictures on it, and you had to mark all the pictures that began with B as in beautiful. Okay, so a bird, I marked that for B for bird. But then the suitcase, I marked it B for bag, because in our house those were bags, and they didn't give me time to explain that in our house we called them bags, and that was extremely frustrating. Slow to respond, so I couldn't just quickly respond. Well, in our house they're bags. You see, like a lot of these kids, I was fully verbal by 5, but I was still slow to respond, and that was very frustrating. I was very lucky to get into very good therapy at a very young age. It was just 2 teachers that had a little speech therapy class in their home. They had about 6 kids in it. They did a lot of the same things that good teachers do today, teaching words, but then they also put a lot of emphasis on taking turns at all kinds of little games where you have to learn and wait and take your turn. And this is something a lot of autistic kids have problems with. And then just teaching skills. Using utensils when you eat, putting your clothes on, just basic skills.
And you've often described yourself as a visual thinker. Can you describe what thinking in pictures feels like?
And I do have a book on visual thinking, the hidden gifts of people who think in pictures, patterns, and abstractions. And there's 3 kind of basic ways that people think. There's visual thinking, then there's more mathematical pattern thinking, and then there's word thinking. And most people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking, but I'm an extreme object visualizer. And object visualizers are often good with animals, art, photography, and also building things. I think one of the worst things we've done in schools is taken shop classes out, because when I was out working on supervising installation of some of my equipment, I worked with visual thinkers that can't do algebra, couldn't do any higher math, but boy, they could build things. And they had lots and lots of patents. And I'm worried that all the emphasis on mathematics, we're screening these kids out. And if you want things like the water system to work, we're going to need these kinds of minds.
How did your family accommodate the different sensory needs that you had as a child?
Well, what they kind of expected, there were some high expectations with some accommodations. Like when we went to family gatherings at my aunt's house or at my grandmother's place, I had a designated place I could exercise. I was expected not to wreck the family gathering, but I could go run some energy off in this hallway that was the designated exercise place. And then when we had to go on a ferry boat and we went on vacation, everybody liked to sit up on the deck, but I didn't like getting blasted out by the horn. And so they let me ride in the cabin under the deck. Yes, we're going to go on this ferry, but you don't have to sit under the horn. I mean, those were, so I'm going to call it high expectations, but some accommodations.
I'm sure that was incredibly helpful.
Well, it
So
was.
looking back now as an adult, what did your mother do that helped you the most, not just academically, but also
She
emotionally?
also always encouraged my skill area. When I just would draw one horse head over and over again, she encouraged me to draw the whole horse. Let's draw the stable. Let's draw things associated with the horse, where you might ride a horse too, broadening that. And she also expected me to do things. She'd give some choice. I can remember when I was 15 and I was afraid to go to my aunt's ranch. And this is where I got interested in the cattle industry. The choice was stay for a week, come home if you hated it, or you can stay all summer. Not going wasn't the choice. And once I got out there, I loved it. I'm seeing too many parents today kind of overprotect their kid. I'm seeing 16-year-olds that are fully verbal have never gone shopping. Kids graduating from college, never had a job, and they don't launch. They end up in the bedroom. We've got to get these kids out doing things, and we got to get them off the devices and doing a lot more real activities.
Do you think that the lack of supports in certain states has any impact with them not being able to socialize in the community?
Well, I think that there's a lot of problems as I travel around. I'm not going to name states, but there are certain places I go where a 3-year-old with no speech is put on a 2-year wait list. That's absolutely terrible. We've got to start working with these kids. And what is suggested in some of these communities, you're going to have to get together with your church group or your library group or a community group, and we got to start working with these kids. So maybe we'll just call it library play, but we've got to start working with these kids. You can't just let them vegetate in the corner on electronics. That is the worst thing you can do.
I agree. And that's part of our state in West Virginia.
Get them doing things. Okay, like I know in West Virginia, quite a lot of farming. We'll get them out there and help them feed the calves, or
That's
get them
absolutely
out,
right.
get them out doing things. That's what we've got to do. I was 8 years old. She just taught me to read phonics. Just taught me how to read out loud, sound out my words. And then there's other kids that are whole word learners. Phonics messes them up. So you've got to figure out, you got a phonics learner or a whole word learner.
Did you find that you were able to memorize much better when you were learning to read?
Well, I knew my alphabet song, which was very helpful. ABC, the alphabet song. And then mother just had me learn the sounds. And then she read a page out of a book. And let's have a book worth reading. And for my generation, it was The Wizard of Oz. And then she had me sound out just a few words. And then I read more and more, and she read less and less. And she reminded me, remember when you got an E on the end? It's made, not mad. She'd give me cues like that.
I find that my son is definitely a memorizer. So I wonder if he does have the visual thinking.
So he may be a whole word learner. Then you just got to learn the whole words. Now he's learning phrases from these movies. But a lot of these kids yak out movie scripts. They don't have any idea what it means. And what you've got to do is show them that it has meaning. And in a book titled Life Animated, what those parents did is they took the phrases out of Disney movies and worked them into real life. And then the kid understood that it had meaning. So if you can find something that Bluey says that would work in a real situation, then just say it.
Right. I think it does help him a lot to be able to script and for us to be able to put the scripting into action in our real lives.
And he can listen to that 20 times, and Bluey will always say it exactly the same way. Where if you say it, you don't always say it exactly the same way. Now, before there was video recorders and all these things, and you just did over-the-air TV, the kids used to learn the advertisements because that was the one thing that was constantly repeated.
You've shared that growing up you experienced severe anxiety and frequent panic attacks. So, what had helped you overcome your anxiety and fear throughout your life?
Well, panic attacks started at puberty for me. When the hormones hit, that's when the panic attacks started. And I had terrible, terrible panic attacks. And in my book, old autobiography, Thinking in Pictures, I describe panic attacks worsening through my 20s. I had to go on antidepressant medication. I've been on it ever since. A low dose of an old-fashioned drug called disipramine. Now today the go-to drug is probably Zoloft, generic name sertraline, and it's a low dose. The mistake that doctors make when treating anxiety with antidepressants is too high a dose. It's starter dose or less. Starter dose or less. I can't emphasize that enough. Too high a dose, you get agitation and insomnia. Now, by the time I got my early 30s, I had colitis attacks that just were nonstop. I was being ripped apart with colitis. And after going on the antidepressant, the colitis 90% cleared up. I still have a little bit of it. But 90% cleared up. My fear circuits in my brain were turned on for no reason because there's something wrong with them. They were just on overdrive. That later in life needed medication. Way too many drugs are given out to little kids. Way too many drugs. Way too many drugs. It's disgusting. I talked to parents, the kids on 6 different drugs. I said, well, why'd you do this one? Why'd you do this one? And you might have done 3 prescriptions at once. No, you try one thing at a time and you see exactly what it did. The younger the kid, the more conservative you want to be.
Do you think that pediatricians are willing to give more now than they ever were before as
Well,
far as
sometimes they
prescription
just do it.
medication?
Yeah, it depends where you're at, but there's some places where I've seen a 7-year-old on 6 drugs and no thought went into it. Kid throws a fit, so they write a prescription. Well, we got to figure out what's making them throw a fit. Is it sound sensitivity? Now, let's say it's sound sensitivity. Screams when he hears a vacuum cleaner. Well, then let the kid play with the vacuum cleaner, because when they turn that vacuum on and off, they may be able to better tolerate it. When they control the noisy thing. That's really important.
We spend a lot of time talking about autism through the lens of the parents, but siblings also have their own journey. Can you share what the relationship was like between you and your siblings?
Well, I had a sibling 1.5 years younger, and then the other 2 siblings were much further apart, so we were never in the same school together. It was hard for my sister 1.5 years younger because lots of times I got all the attention. She sometimes got left out. And we got to make sure that siblings have got some quality time and the autistic kid doesn't just totally take over. But by the time I was 5, we could do things like have Sunday dinner at Granny's and not have it wrecked by me. We were able to do normal stuff, go to a game, go shopping. I could do most normal activities.
Did you learn to tolerate things that bothered you or anything that was uncomfortable as you got older?
Well, the panic attacks, my anxiety didn't start until puberty, when the hormones started. I had late puberty at 14.
So none of those sensitivities really impacted you at a younger age.
Well, mother realized that, she remember taking me to circus one time and I was screaming when they shot cannons off at the circus. And, well, we still went and did some of these things. And, now you got noise canceling headsets. Now, the thing I want to warn you is if you wear a noise canceling headset all the time, it'll make the sound sensitivity worse. So what you want to do, you have it with you. Control. Have it with you. And then if a siren goes off or something like that, then you can put it on.
That's exactly how my son is too. They're not even noise canceling headphones. I don't think he needs anything that extreme. We've just bought just any over the ear headphones that he's comfortable with. And if he is anxious from a crowd or a new place, we'll have an extra pack in our backpack for him and he'll put them on sometimes and it seems to help. But I think it's a little bit of the anxiety that impacts him more than anything. And it seems like once he's comfortable, he gets rid of them and the sound may not change.
That's good. And then you have them with you. It's sort of like have them with you,
Yes.
try not to wear them, but you can have them with you. You see, and just having them with you can make you more comfortable.
Yes, same with sunglasses. I don't think he's really impacted by the bright light, but I think it might give him a bit of a shield or some comfort. And it's usually when we go out in public or in a new area, he'll put his, if we have sunglasses, he'll put them on with the headphones. But once he's there for a little bit, just like when we went to the zoo, those came right off.
Good, good.
Everything was
You
fine.
went to the zoo. Good. That's kind of
Hmm.
good thing. Get him out doing things. And then he took them off. That's fine. Once he got to the zoo and says, yeah, I kind of like the zoo. I'll take the headphones and the sunglasses off. Great. That's good. And then we can go to look at the different animals, talk about them. Where do these different animals live in the wild, and have good conversations about different animals?
Can you share some other things that helped you manage your anxiety?
Well, did exercise, another thing, heavy exercise helps. That definitely helped with my anxiety. Mother would say, go outside and run the energy out of you. And then I had a designated place to exercise when we went and visited at family gatherings.
My son's a jumper, so anywhere that he can jump and get some activity, it
Yeah,
definitely seems to help him as well. Let's talk about the importance of positive role models. I know that your science teacher recognized your strengths and redirected your interest into a career. And you've said that one mentor can completely change a child's future. If that teacher had never entered your life, do you think that the future would have looked different?
I don't know. It may not have looked as good. He was a very important mentor, and he worked with me for 3 years. He worked with me when I was a year in high school, and then he worked with, since I went to college right near where I went to high school, and he worked with me on weekends, and we did interesting projects. But he was a very important mentor, and I worked with him for 3 years.
What other important mentors did you have throughout your life?
Well, Anne out at the ranch. And when I went out to the ranch, she was somebody, when I got down, I could just bounce ideas off of her. She was another very important mentor as an adult. And then there was Jim, the contractor, who seeked me out to design projects. He showed me how to set up a business. He was another important mentor on getting my career started. And I want to make sure I give all these people credits. I had my speech teacher, mother taught me to read, a super good third grade teacher. There were some very good people that helped me.
You entered agriculture at a time when very few women were doing that work. On top of that, you were navigating autism. Where did your confidence come from? Was this something that you naturally had,
I
or was
think it
this
came from being a hostess at my mother's parties and selling candy for charity. That taught
really?
me how to go up to people and talk to them. And my
That's
brother, who's not
amazing.
autistic, hated the parties. See, all the kids had to do this. But he said the parties helped him become a bank vice president because he could talk to older men.
What do you think the key, or what type of advice would you give to an autistic adult who's trying to find employment?
Well, the first thing I'm going to ask what he's good at. And half of all jobs are backdoor. So grease the skids. Somebody that owns a shop, help get him in there. And then one of the things they're going to have to clean up is hygiene. That one's non-negotiable. And there's a scene in the HBO movie where my boss slams the deodorant down. That actually happened. No, you've got to clean it up and you got to be on time. That's the first thing. Another thing that will really help is pilots' checklists. Tasks that involve a sequence. Let's say they got to clean the ice cream machine at McDonald's. Write down the steps to take it apart, the steps to clean it, and the steps to put it back together. That would save a lot of jobs because the working memory is bad.
Have there been any jobs that you have found throughout your career that have really been helpful for autistic
Yes.
individuals?
Well, I wrote for a magazine. I was a livestock editor for a State Farm magazine for 6 years. And there's a scene in that movie where I go up and get the card. That's where selling candy for charity helped me. And I made myself a good livestock editor. And I accurately summarized meetings. And I wrote good features. I made myself good at that job. Let's look at the visual thinkers. I'll tell you right now, trades. They'll be laughing to the bank when AI lays a lot of other people off. The visual thinkers, the ones that can't do algebra, forget the algebra, forget the calculus. You got to do your practical math. They go into a trade, they'll have a job for life. They'll have a job when other people don't have a job. So the visual thinkers, the non-mathematicians, trades. Now your mathematical minds, The problem we got right now is introductory coding jobs they're not hiring. But you're still going to need an IT person for the local hospital or the local school. You're still going to need an IT person. Those jobs are not going to go away. Also, well, then you get the autistic kid that's a word thinker. They know every fact about football teams. They can often be very good at specialized retail. Here are jobs that have been successful: selling cars, selling business insurance, selling specialized financial products. Those are jobs where they have detailed knowledge of all the different products. And those have been successful jobs, but they've got to learn working skills. Grandparents that find out they're autistic all at paper routes. So let's do paper route substitutes, church volunteer jobs. Just set it up in the neighborhood. Mowing lawns, walking other people's dogs. I'm going to call those paper route substitutes. We need to do those at 11. Instant they're legal, they need to get real jobs. You see where we have a lot of emphasis on the academics, but we don't have enough emphasis on life skills.
That's true. And you mentioned the auto business. My husband and I were in the auto business. I was for 17 years. My husband still is.
So you have a car dealership?
We don't own one, but I worked at one, and he also runs another auto group. So we are.
All right. Well, then that's where you put your kid to work.
That's what we've said too.
And the other thing is, it would be best. Now you have more than one store.
They do. They have 4 or 5 different dealerships.
I want him working at one where Daddy's not there. Like, he can own it. That's fine. But he needs to work for the one where Daddy's not there all the time. Now there's a guy that works at the Denver airport, and he delivers all the food to the restaurants in the airport. They love him because he never messes up the orders. And he needs a little coaching on interacting with passengers that he sees in the hallway.
I could see autistic individuals enjoying the auto business, especially if they have a special interest in cars. That is something
auto business has been very successful. There was an 8-year-old that used to sell cars. He demoed them in part only.
Yeah, and were very routine.
And he was selling cars at a family dealership.
I can believe it.
See, this is learning the working skills. And okay, now that's a perfect example. Son, I bought a car one time, and the guy who did the contracts, I'm sure, was on the spectrum. He wrote up all the contracts for the dealership.
That's what I did. I was in finance, so I got your loan approved, and I did all of the back end sales, and I could do that job in my sleep. It was all routine, everything. But in finance, you had to be very meticulous. So everything had to be correct because you did the DMV work, you got their title work completed. And I could see where a lot of autistic individuals could really excel.
No, it's been a business where there's been successes. There's been 4 or 5 successes on car selling. And so
I could see why.
And that's specialized retail. And a lot of these jobs, they just need to get them in the back door. And then learning to drive, that's going to take a lot longer. They need a lot more practice in a totally safe place. I did a month on back dirt roads before we went anywhere near traffic.
Dr. Grandin, we're going to take a real quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. You're listening to Get UnPuzzled. UnPuzzled Parents Connect was born from 2 parents who were struggling. A need for answers, a need for connection, and a need for someone to simply say, I understand. Like so many families, we found ourselves navigating a diagnosis, therapies, meetings, and a world we never expected to be a part of. We quickly realized that while resources existed, community did not. So we built one. Today, UnPuzzled Parents Connect provides free educational and advocacy trainings, caregiver support groups, mental health initiatives led by licensed professionals, inclusive children's events, and assistance navigating programs like Medicaid and waivers. Through our podcast, Get UnPuzzled, we're bringing you experts, advocates, and families to share stories that they have and ensure that no family has to walk this journey alone. But our vision extends far beyond programs and events. We envision a world of acceptance where every child and family feels seen, supported, and understood. Because every family deserves more than resources. They deserve a village. Learn more at unpuzzledparentsconnect.com, where you can find us on Facebook at Unpuzzled Parents Connect. So throughout the course of your career, you've had so many accomplishments. You've earned your PhD in animal science, you've become a professor, you've designed livestock systems that are now used throughout the world. You were named one of Times Magazine's 100 most influential people. And of course, you've inspired millions through your advocacy. So when you look back on all of these life's accomplishments, which ones are you most proud of?
Well, I'm proud of things for different reasons. I mean, right now, I'll be 79 in another month or so, and I'm still out doing my talks, and I think I got to help inspire these kids, and I want to see these kids get out and be successful. I worked with people that owned metal fabrication shops that were definitely autistic. So the kid that's the extreme visual thinker, the shop class, the trades is the way to go. And they'll have a job when other people get laid off.
Do you think AI is going to end up helping individuals with autism?
AI is made by people who have autism. Computer jobs at the very highest level, they are hiring. But where they're not hiring is on the entry-level computer jobs. AI is doing that work right now. Now, the design the AI systems at the highest level, they're hiring. But your average autistic person isn't going to be going for that job. Now, there's some brilliant mathematicians, and we're not developing our math kits either. You get a math kid, you need to move them ahead. Maybe let him take college math classes when he's 12 years old. We have a tendency to not push our math kids forward. But I get chemistry and engineering news, and the 12 top young chemists presented, brilliant young chemists, 70% of them were foreigners. We're not developing our math kids. And math kids get bored when they do baby math. No, we need to be moving math kids ahead. You might have an 8-year-old that needs some college math.
You've said before how much you hated math growing up, and especially algebra.
The reason I can't do algebra is I can't remember it. It's too abstract. I'm worried that we're screening visual thinkers out. But I took shop in 5th grade. And then the other thing that's crazy is a lot of mechanical equipment we import from Europe. Cement mixers we import from Europe. Like, you've got to be kidding. Like the big stationary ones for building bridges. I went to a trade show for cement mixers. Recently, half of them came from Italy and Germany. Well, that goes back to our school system, because in Europe, in 9th grade, you can go tech or you can go university. And some of these visual thinkers, trades where they ought to go. And they'll have a job when other people don't have a job. There's a lot of just back office work, counting. Like right now, I've had to hire accountants to do my taxes because my taxes are complicated. Well, maybe eventually I'd be able to just stuff all that stuff into an AI program and I'll do it. That's not possible now, but I can see that being in the future.
So what about the kids that aren't good with math?
But then those are your visual thinkers. You've got your visual thinkers. They're your mechanics and artists, but a lot of routine art jobs AI is going to do, but it's not going to build things. And then you have the word thinkers. They'd be good with the car dealership. And then you have the kids that are much more severe. They're not going to do any of these jobs. See, there's a problem with autism. You're going from Einstein to somebody who can't dress themselves. They may need 24/7 support. See, this is the problem. They're not going to do any of these jobs.
Did you agree when they combined the spectrum with Asperger's and just made autism a complete spectrum?
Well, it's kind of made it really messy for service providers. You see, originally in the 80s, you had to have no speech to be autistic. You had to have delayed speech. Then they put the Asperger's as basically autistic, no speech delay. Then you put everything all together. You see, and the other thing I'm seeing right now is when people come up to me at the airport and say, oh, I've just found out I'm autistic, they're much milder than the undiagnosed people I worked with that owned metal fabrication shops. Or they were that weird guy in the maintenance shop who could fix anything. So right now, I've just talked to some plant managers. They can't find good maintenance people. I'll tell you where they're at. They're playing video games in the basement when they ought to be fixing things in factories. If you've got such a wide range. And then you've got one where a person where maybe bagging groceries is a suitable career. And then you have another person where that's a training job.
We hear from families every day who, are struggling to access services. And then, of course, cost is definitely a factor. But I know it's not the only one. What is your opinion? What do you think would be some of the other barriers that families are potentially going through to not receive those services?
If they could just get health insurance. You see, I was self-employed for a long time. And in my 20s, I had no health insurance. I had to pay for a surgery. But in the 70s, things cost a tiny fraction compared to what they cost now.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that, it's the health insurance stuff. And I had a blind roommate, and she says, I could give up the SSI payment if I could just keep the health insurance. She told me that in the 70s. We are so messed up on the health. Like you get a cut on your finger and that's $1,000 finger.
Yes. That's
I
true.
had to go in the emergency room for 24 hours with pneumonia. $18,000. They used about $250 worth of supplies.
That's how therapies are too.
Well, you see, this is the problem.
So
you see,
expensive.
I think we're going to have to eventually, do things. See, a lot of this therapy is not rocket science. We can't say we're doing therapy for legal reasons. So then we call it church play. But we're really doing therapy. No, we're doing church play. We've got a real mess here in this country on the whole health thing. Like when I went over to Spain and Germany right after that. When I told people in Spain and Germany what that cost, they were shocked, just shocked.
They have free healthcare there?
They either have free healthcare or they've got, like, one in Germany, a guy says, well, my friend busted their ankle and that was $300.
That's not bad.
No, that's not. And that's something you can afford.
Right.
But after I told them about the $18,000, this was just a year ago, they said, well, my friend broke his ankle and that was $300.
And at least in our experience, when you do have insurance, they don't always approve all of the necessities. So for our son, right when he was diagnosed, we were able to get him into an ABA facility. And we thought we'd hit the lottery with that. We were able to get him in full time, right beside where I worked at the dealerships. And 35 hours a week he was going. And he was getting one-to-one care. And it seemed to be really helping him.
Well, that's
and
good.
They called me into their office and they said, your insurance rejected it. So you have a $10,000 bill. You have two options. You can pay it, or he needs to stop the program.
The other problem is, once the private equity got into this stuff too, and charging exorbitant prices, there were some real ripoffs. Because if you watch what the therapist does, I talk to families all the time when they say, I get an hour of speech and an hour of OT a week. That is not sufficient, but it is sufficient for that professional to coach some other students to work with that kid, or grandmothers. Let's enlist the retirees. I'll be 79 in another month and a half. I'm way past retirement age. I just talked to a lady at a restaurant today. She's 70 and she's still doing her child care job and she loves it. And I said, you need to just keep doing it because you'll get bored and die otherwise. I said, if I stop going to the airport, I'm going to shrivel up and die. So when I stayed home too long, I'm going, I can't wait to get another trip.
You are traveling so much.
Well, it helps people. I figure right now, just helping people help these kids to be successful. Because I'm seeing kids right now recently graduate from college, good grades, lose it in the workplace. Absolutely no work skills training. You go in these dollar stores and they're a real mess. Well, let's say one of those is within walking distance. Well, a 12-year-old can go down there and help Mrs. Jones clean that dollar store up and pay them with some cash. I just see these things. Visual thinker, I just see it. Things they could do in the neighborhood. walking dogs for people. Now if they're out in the country, that won't be an option. Volunteer jobs at the church, where it's on a schedule outside the home. Because we're going to just have to figure out more stuff in the neighborhood. And then I found some states where I've seen really good things just be made in the community. I've seen some very good faith-based programs for the severe. Some very good programs. But what's been happening over the last 50 years is us seniors are taking up more and more of the budget. We are half the national budget. Grants for scientific research over the last 50 years have gone down. No, in the developed world, seniors are eating up half the budget. In every developed country. It's true for Australia, UK, New Zealand, Canada, all the developed countries. There's less and less money. And we're going to have to figure out stuff in the neighborhood. Now you get some of the very severe behavior problems. When I was a little kid and I threw a fit, the penalty was no television for one night, whether it happened at home or school. And I understood that.
What would you tell a parent whose child just received their diagnosis?
All right, a 3-year-old, and let's say they're in one of the states with a 2-year wait list. We got to get some students working with this kid right now. And I have a book called The Way I See It. Now, in the house, I have a little short book called Autism and Education. So if I don't want to freak them out with a giant book, read Autism and Education. You're going to have to start working with this kid now. Let's get some students, get some grandmothers. And I have found some teachers have the knack to work with these 3-year-olds and some don't. We got to get working with this kid now. We're going to better start some library play.
And when you're not speaking and traveling the world, what are you doing for fun in your spare time?
Well, I went to see the Steven Spielberg movie, and I've got I'm lining up a construction site visit. Those are things that I think are fun. I like to watch them play with those big Legos. And this brings up another problem. Kids are good at Legos. They're not graduating to tools. I was doing tools in 2nd grade. The Lego kids need to graduate from tools. Graduate and start using tools. As far as visual thinkers, let's really go the trades route because they'll have jobs others don't. So I really push trades right now. AI will not touch those jobs, or you want to be a nurse or something like that. Right now, there's a shortage of dental hygienists. Our dentist can't hire them. That job's not going to get done by AI. They have a huge shortage of them right now.
So we need more hands-on.
Hands-on is safe from AI. Like I talked to the lady that takes your blood from you. She's like a year program she did. That job's not going to go away. I'm going to have to get blood samples out of people. I always like to ask people how they got into careers, and those kind of jobs are not going to go away. Well, this is the problem. We've got such a huge spectrum, and then we've got our profound, severe cases that need 24/7 support. Some of the best things I've seen on that, Texas and in Michigan, they were faith-based, and they were doing a very good job with it, and the community paid for it.
That's amazing.
And these were for the real severe cases, and unfortunately, they have a wait list of miles long.
We do as well. We are one of the states that you were talking about with the 2-year wait list easily.
Well, I don't know what else to do except we got to start working with the kids, and then you have the ones where there's an hour of speech and an hour of OT, and I'd use those people as coaches. That's enough for a coach every week. And getting grandmothers. Let's get the retirees out doing things. These retirees are bored and they're lonely. Let's get them out working with these 3-year-olds. And you're going to find some grannies have the knack and others don't. And I know that's not very scientific calling it the knack. But some know just how to get the kid. We're going to spin the coin together. We're going to take turns spinning the coin. Or I have this little fidget thing. We'll take turns fidgeting this thing. And you start a little turn-taking game. We're going to throw a ball back and forth. And start working with those kids. A lot of retirees around, they'd probably love to work with the little ones.
Do you think there's any stigmas that still need broken surrounding autism?
Well, there is one of the ways to break that is let's show what they can do. People thought it was weird, and then I'd whip out my drawings. And when I whipped out my drawings, people were impressed when I drew that. But with little kids, there's a lot less stigma with the little kids. Let's work on starting some church play, and then getting business like a car dealership on, start hiring them.
Dr. Grandin, thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. How many individuals that you have impacted, especially for families like mine. And we are so excited to meet you in person at our Empowering Families conference.
All right, great to talk to you. I'm going to leave the meeting now.
All right, thank you so much.
Right. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for this very special episode of the Get UnPuzzled podcast featuring Dr. Temple Grandin. We hope today's conversation reminded you that every child has potential, every voice deserves to be heard, and that different is never less. If this episode resonated with you, send it to a friend or share it with a parent, caregiver, educator, or someone who needs to hear Dr. Grandin's message of hope and possibility. Don't forget to subscribe to Get UnPuzzled Podcast so you never miss an episode, and we can continue to bring you stories, resources, and conversations that empower families across West Virginia. To learn more about UnPuzzled, our upcoming events, and our mission, you can follow us on Facebook at UnPuzzled Parents Connect, or you can visit our website at unpuzzledparentsconnect.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, you don't have to navigate this journey alone.